"Ma'am, we have orders. You and the children are being detained," the officer said coldly. Keisha hugged her 3 crying boys. "Please, we live here. My husband is on his way." From the window across the street, the neighbor watched, sipping her coffee with a cruel smile. Then, a shadow fell over the officers. "Is there a problem with my family, gentlemen?" The officers turned around and saw the Purple Heart on his chest. Their faces went pale. "Sir, absolutely not, sir. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started." "Mama, can we have pancakes?" Keisha Williams smiled at her 7-year-old son, Jaden. He stood in the kitchen doorway rubbing his eyes. His pajamas had dinosaurs on them, his hair stuck up in every direction. "Yes, baby, go wash your face and wake your brothers." Jaden ran back upstairs. Keisha heard his feet pound on the steps. She looked at the clock on the kitchen wall. It was 7:30 in the morning. She had been awake for 2 hours already. The house on Maple Street was quiet when Keisha woke up at 5:30. She always woke up early. Her husband David was already awake. He sat at the kitchen table in his army uniform. The uniform was perfectly pressed. His boots were shined. He drank coffee and read something on his phone. "Morning," Keisha said. David looked up and smiled. "Morning, baby." She poured herself coffee and sat next to him. They did not talk much. They did not need to. After 10 years of marriage, some mornings were just quiet, comfortable. She watched him drink his coffee. She noticed the Purple Heart medal on his chest. He earned it after getting wounded in Afghanistan. She was proud of that medal. She was also scared of what it meant. It meant her husband went to war. It meant he got hurt. It meant he was brave. At 6 o'clock, David stood up. He kissed Keisha on the forehead. "I will call you at lunch," he said. "Be safe," Keisha said. She always said that. Every single day. David smiled and walked to the front door. Keisha followed him. She stood in the doorway and watched him get into his truck. He backed out of the driveway and drove down Maple Street. She watched until she could not see the truck anymore. Then she closed the door. The house felt empty without David. It always did. Keisha walked back to the kitchen. She looked out the window at the street. The sun was coming up. The sky was pink and orange. It was Tuesday morning in late April. The weather was warm. Spring was here. Everything looked peaceful. Keisha thought about her 3 sons sleeping upstairs. Marcus was 9 years old. Jaden was 7. Isaiah was 5. They were good boys. They listened. They did their homework. They were polite. She was proud of them. The Williams family moved to this house 8 months ago. They wanted a good neighborhood. They wanted good schools. They wanted a safe place to raise their sons. Most of the neighbors were nice. Mr. Rodriguez lived next door. He was a teacher. He had 2 kids. Mrs. Johnson lived down the street. She was retired. She brought cookies when they first moved in. But one neighbor was not nice. Mrs. Eleanor Peterson lived directly across the street. She was 60 years old. She had gray hair and cold blue eyes. From the very first day, Mrs. Peterson stared at the Williams family. She never smiled. She never waved. Keisha tried to say hello many times. Mrs. Peterson always looked away. Keisha knew why. She had felt this kind of hate before. Growing up in Detroit, she learned early that some people would not like her because of her skin color. Some people would judge her before knowing her. It hurt. But she learned to live with it. She tried not to think about Mrs. Peterson. She focused on her family. That was what mattered. At 7 o'clock, Keisha went upstairs. She opened the door to Marcus's room. He slept in a bed shaped like a race car. His walls had posters of basketball players. "Marcus, time to wake up," Keisha said softly. Marcus opened his eyes slowly. "Is it morning already?" "Yes, baby. Come on, breakfast soon." She went to the next room. Jaden and Isaiah shared a room. They had bunk beds. Jaden slept on top. Isaiah slept on the bottom. She woke Jaden first. Then she woke Isaiah. "I want to wear my superhero shirt," Isaiah said. "Okay, baby, let me find it." By 7:30, all 3 boys were awake. They came downstairs one by one. Marcus sat at the kitchen table. Jaden asked about pancakes. Isaiah played with a toy truck on the floor. Keisha made pancakes. She poured orange juice. The boys ate and talked. Marcus had a spelling test today. He was worried about it. "You studied hard. You will do great," Keisha told him. "What if I forget the words?" Marcus asked. "You will not forget. You are smart." Jaden talked about gym class. They were playing kickball today. He loved kickball. Isaiah talked about planting seeds at school. His kindergarten class had a garden. He was excited. Keisha loved these mornings. She loved watching her boys eat. She loved hearing about their days. She felt happy. At 8 o'clock, she told them to brush their teeth. They ran upstairs. She heard water running. She heard them arguing about who used too much toothpaste. She smiled. Normal kid stuff. She packed their lunches, sandwiches, apple slices, juice boxes. She wrote little notes and put them in the lunch boxes. "I love you. Have a great day." The boys came back downstairs with their backpacks. Marcus had a blue backpack. Jaden had a red one. Isaiah had a green one with dinosaurs. "The bus comes at 8:20, Keisha said. "Do you have everything?" "Yes, Mama," they said together. Keisha looked out the window. She saw Mrs. Peterson standing at her window across the street. Mrs. Peterson was watching them. She always watched them. It made Keisha uncomfortable, but she tried to ignore it. The morning felt normal. The sun was shining. The boys were ready for school. Everything was fine. Then there were 3 loud knocks on the front door. Keisha looked at the clock. 8:15. She was not expecting anyone. The mailman did not come until afternoon. David was at work. Who could it be? "Stay here," she told the boys. She walked to the front door. She looked through the peephole. 2 police officers stood on her porch. They wore uniforms. They looked serious. Keisha's heart started beating fast. Her hands felt cold. Why were police at her door? What happened? Was David okay? She opened the door slowly. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice shook a little. The first officer was white. He had short brown hair. His name tag said Bradley. "Are you Keisha Williams?" he asked. "Yes," Keisha said. The second officer was Asian. He wore glasses. His name tag said Chen. He held a piece of paper. "Ma'am, we received a report about illegal immigrants living at this address," Officer Bradley said. Keisha felt like someone hit her in the stomach. She could not breathe for a second. Illegal immigrants? What was he talking about? "There must be a mistake," she said. "My family are American citizens. My husband is in the United States Army." Officer Bradley looked at his paper. "We have orders to detain everyone in the house for questioning." Keisha's hands started shaking. This was not happening. This could not be happening. "Who made this report?" she asked. "I cannot share that information," Officer Bradley said. Behind Keisha, Marcus appeared in the hallway. He saw the police officers. His eyes got wide. "Mama, what is wrong?" he asked. His voice was scared. Jaden and Isaiah came running. They saw the uniforms. They grabbed onto their mother's legs. Keisha tried to stay calm. Her sons were watching. She could not fall apart. "Can I call my husband?" she asked. Officer Chen looked uncomfortable. He glanced at Officer Bradley. "You have 5 minutes," Officer Bradley said. Keisha's heart was racing. Keisha ran to the kitchen. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped her phone. She could hear the boys crying in the hallway. She could hear Officer Bradley talking to them in a calm voice. She tried to focus. She found David's number. She pressed call. The phone rang. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings, then his voicemail. "You have reached Sergeant David Williams. I cannot take your call right now. Please leave a message." "No, no, no." Keisha ended the call. She dialed again. Her fingers fumbled on the screen. The phone rang again. "Please answer. Please answer. Please." Voicemail again. She wanted to scream. Where was he? Why was he not answering? David always had his phone. Always. She tried a third time, her eyes filled with tears. The phone rang and rang. Then voicemail. Keisha knew David was in his morning briefing. The briefing happened every Tuesday at 7 in the morning. All the soldiers had to put their phones away. He could not hear her calls. He had no idea what was happening. She tried to think. Who else could she call? Her sister Monica lived in Cleveland. That was 2 hours away. But maybe Monica could help. Maybe she could call someone. Maybe she knew what to do. Keisha dialed Monica's number. It rang 4 times. Then voicemail. Hey, this is Monica. Leave a message. Keisha's throat was so tight she could barely speak. Monica, please call me back. Please, I need help. The police are here. Please. She hung up. Her hands would not stop shaking. She tried her friend Tamika. Tamika lived 20 minutes away. They met at church. Tamika was smart. She would know what to do. The phone rang twice, then voicemail. Nobody was answering. Nobody could help her. Keisha felt completely alone. Mrs. Williams, time is up. Officer Bradley's voice came from the front door. Keisha walked back slowly. Her legs felt weak. The boys were still in the hallway. Marcus had his arms around Jaden and Isaiah. All 3 of them were crying. Please, Keisha said. Just a few more minutes. My husband will be out of his meeting soon. He can come home. I can prove everything. Officer Bradley shook his head. No more delays, ma'am. You need to gather the children. But we did not do anything wrong, Keisha said. Her voice broke. We live here. This is our home. My husband serves this country. We still need to take you to the station for verification, Officer Bradley said. Officer Chen stood behind him. He looked at the ground. He seemed uncomfortable. His face showed he did not like this. Can you please just check? Keisha begged. You can check our documents. I have our passports. I have my marriage certificate. I have my husband's military ID. Everything is here. Ma'am, we have our orders, Officer Bradley said. He reached down to his belt. His hand touched the handcuffs hanging there. Marcus saw this. His eyes got very wide. No, Marcus screamed. Do not touch my mama. Jaden and Isaiah started screaming too. They buried their faces in Keisha's legs. They were sobbing so hard they could barely breathe. Keisha knelt down. She pulled all 3 boys close to her. It is okay, babies, she whispered. Mama is here. We did not do anything wrong. But she did not believe her own words. Nothing felt okay. Nothing felt safe. Outside, car doors started opening. Keisha heard voices. She looked past the officers. Neighbors were coming out of their houses. Mr. Rodriguez from next door walked quickly across his lawn. He was a teacher at the middle school. He had kind eyes and a friendly smile. He and his wife Maria always waved to the Williams family. What is happening here? Mr. Rodriguez called out. Officer Bradley turned. Police business, sir. Please step back. Is everything okay, Keisha? Mr. Rodriguez asked. He ignored the officer. Keisha could not speak. Her throat was too tight. Mrs. Johnson came out of her house down the street. She was 70 years old with white hair. She was retired. She brought the Williams family cookies when they first moved in. Why are the police at Keisha's house? Mrs. Johnson asked loudly. More neighbors came outside. A white woman named Mrs. Parker stood on her porch. A black man named Mr. Thompson walked to the edge of his yard. People Keisha recognized. People she saw every day. Now they were all watching her. Keisha felt humiliated. She felt shame even though she did nothing wrong. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to take her boys inside and close the door and pretend this was not happening. Across the street, Mrs. Eleanor Peterson stood at her living room window. Her arms were crossed over her chest. She was watching everything. Keisha could see her face clearly. Mrs. Peterson had a small smile. She looked satisfied. Keisha's stomach turned. She suddenly understood. Mrs. Peterson did this. Mrs. Peterson called the police. Mrs. Peterson lied about them. Who made the report? Keisha asked again. Her voice was stronger now. Was it her? Was it Mrs. Peterson? Officer Bradley did not answer, but his eyes moved toward Mrs. Peterson's house for just a second. That was enough. Keisha knew. Mrs. Peterson had hated them from the first day. She stared at them. She never spoke to them. She watched them like they were criminals. And now she made a false report to get rid of them. Rage filled Keisha's chest, hot and sharp. She lied, Keisha said. That woman lied about us. Ma'am, I need you to calm down, Officer Bradley said. Calm down? Keisha's voice got louder. Someone lied and said we are illegal immigrants. We are not. We are citizens. My husband fights for this country, and you come to my house and try to take me and my children away without even checking if it is true? Mr. Rodriguez took out his phone. He started recording video. This is wrong, Mr. Rodriguez said loudly. The Williams family are good people. Sergeant Williams is in the army. This is his family. Someone made a false report. Sir, put your phone away, Officer Bradley said. No, Mr. Rodriguez said. I am allowed to record. This is wrong, and everyone should see it. Mrs. Johnson walked closer. I have known Keisha for 8 months. She is a good mother. Those boys are good boys. They go to school every day. They play outside. They are not illegal immigrants. This is ridiculous. Everyone needs to step back, Officer Bradley said. His voice got harder. This is police business. But the neighbors did not step back. Mrs. Parker called out from her porch. I had coffee with Keisha last week. She is my friend. Why are you doing this? Officer Chen spoke quietly to Officer Bradley. Maybe we should verify some information before we proceed. We have our orders, Officer Bradley said. But this clearly does not match the report, Officer Chen said. His voice was still quiet but firm. Look at this house. Look at this family. This is not what was described. Officer Bradley's jaw tightened. He did not like being questioned. We follow procedure. They can verify everything at the station. He looked at Keisha. Ma'am, I need you to turn around. Keisha felt frozen. She could not move. She could not think. This was really happening. The police were going to handcuff her in front of her children, in front of her neighbors, in front of everyone. Marcus stood in front of her again. He was only 9 years old. He was small, but he stood as tall as he could. My mama did not do anything wrong, Marcus said. His voice shook, but he did not move. You cannot take her. Son, move aside, Officer Bradley said. No, Marcus said. Jaden and Isaiah were screaming. Keisha was crying. The neighbors were yelling. Mr. Rodriguez was recording everything. Mrs. Johnson was shouting that this was wrong. It was chaos. Complete chaos. Officer Bradley reached for Keisha's arm. She pulled back without thinking. She did not want him to touch her. Ma'am, if you resist, this will get worse, Officer Bradley said. His voice was cold now. Keisha closed her eyes. She thought about David. Where was he? Why could he not hear her? She needed him. She needed him so badly. She started to turn around. She was about to put her hands behind her back. The boys were screaming so loud. The neighbors were yelling. Everything was noise and fear and panic. Then a different sound cut through everything. A loud engine, getting closer, getting louder. Everyone stopped. Everyone turned. A military truck came around the corner at the end of Maple Street. It was moving fast. Too fast for a residential street. It came closer and closer. Then it pulled hard into the Williams driveway. The tires made a loud sound on the pavement. The engine turned off. The door opened. Sergeant David Williams stepped out wearing his full dress uniform. David closed the truck door. The sound was loud in the quiet street. Everyone was watching him. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. He walked toward his house. His boots hit the pavement hard with each step. He did not run. He did not rush. He moved with calm, steady steps. But there was power in every movement. His uniform was perfect. Every crease was sharp. Every button was polished. The medals on his chest caught the morning sun. The Purple Heart was there. So were other ribbons, red ones, blue ones. Each one meant something. Each one told a story. David was 6 feet tall with broad shoulders. He looked directly at the 2 police officers standing on his porch. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were hard. "What is happening to my wife and children?" David asked. His voice was firm and steady, not angry, but powerful. Officer Bradley stood up straighter immediately. He saw the uniform. He saw the medals. His whole body language changed. "Sir," Officer Bradley said. The word came out fast. "We received a report about illegal immigrants at this address. We are following up on that report." David's jaw tightened. A muscle moved in his cheek, but his voice stayed calm. "Who made this report?" Officer Bradley looked uncomfortable. "I cannot share that information, sir." David looked at Officer Chen, then back at Officer Bradley. Then he looked across the street at Mrs. Peterson's house. She was still at the window. When David's eyes found her, she stepped back fast, but not fast enough. David looked back at the officers. "I would like to see your identification and the report." It was not a request. It was a command. Officer Chen reached for his badge immediately. He handed it to David. Officer Bradley hesitated for just a second. Then he did the same. David looked at both badges carefully. He read every word. He was using his military training. He was calm. He was methodical. Then he held out his hand for the report. Officer Bradley handed over the paper. David read it slowly. His eyes moved over every line. "This report says people were seen jumping over the back fence at night," David said. "It says foreign languages were heard. What evidence do you have to support these claims?" Officer Bradley shifted his weight. "We have to follow up on all reports, sir." "Did you verify any of this information before coming to my home?" David asked. Officer Chen looked at the ground. Officer Bradley did not answer right away. "Did you verify?" David asked again. His voice got colder. "No, sir," Officer Bradley finally said. "So you came to my home. You confronted my wife. You scared my children. You were about to put my wife in handcuffs, and you did not verify anything first." It was not a question. It was a statement. David's voice stayed calm, but the words cut like knives. "My family are United States citizens. I have served this country for 12 years. I am a sergeant at Fort Hays. I deployed to Afghanistan. Twice. I was wounded in combat defending this country. And you come to my home and terrorize my family based on a lie." Officer Bradley's face turned red. "Sir, we were following procedure." "The procedure is wrong when it allows innocent families to be treated like criminals," David said. On the porch, Keisha was crying. Relief flooded through her body. David was home. He would fix this. He would make it okay. Marcus broke away from his mother. He ran down the porch steps. Jaden and Isaiah ran after him. All 3 boys ran to their father. David knelt down immediately. He opened his arms. All 3 boys crashed into him. They grabbed onto his uniform. They buried their faces in his chest. They were all crying. "It is okay," David said quietly. "Daddy is here. Everything is okay now." Marcus looked up at his father. His face was wet with tears. "They tried to take Mama." "I know," David said. "But they will not. I promise." He hugged them tighter for a moment. Then he stood up. He looked down at his sons. "Go inside with your mama," David said. "I need to talk to these officers." "Do not leave," Isaiah said. His small hand grabbed David's uniform. "I am not leaving. I am right here. Go with Mama." Keisha came down from the porch. She took the boys' hands. They did not want to let go of David, but Keisha gently pulled them toward the house. "Come on, babies," she said. "Let Daddy handle this." She took them inside, but she stood at the window watching. She needed to see what happened. David turned back to Officer Bradley and Officer Chen. "Am I under arrest?" "No, sir," Officer Bradley said quickly. "Is my family being detained?" "No, sir." "Are we free to go?" "Yes, sir." David looked at both officers for a long moment. Then he spoke again. I want to talk to whoever made this false report." He walked down the driveway. He turned toward the street. He walked straight toward Mrs. Peterson's house. Officer Bradley and Officer Chen followed him. They did not know what else to do. Mr. Rodriguez followed too. He still held his phone up, recording everything. Mrs. Johnson followed. "That woman needs to answer for this," she said loudly. Mrs. Parker came down from her porch. Mr. Thompson walked closer. Other neighbors joined. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Everyone wanted to hear what Mrs. Peterson would say. David walked with military precision. His boots hit the pavement in a steady rhythm. He crossed the street. He walked up Mrs. Peterson's driveway. He climbed the 3 steps to her front porch. Mrs. Peterson was no longer at the window. The curtains were closed now. David knocked on the door 3 times. Hard. The sound echoed down the street. Everyone waited. 30 seconds passed. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. David knocked again. Louder this time. 3 hard knocks that made the door shake. More seconds passed. Then there was a sound from inside the house. Footsteps. Slow footsteps. The door opened slowly. Just a crack at first. Then wider. Mrs. Eleanor Peterson stood in the doorway. She looked small and old. She was short and thin. Her gray hair was messy. She wore a floral blouse and beige slacks. Her hands were shaking. She could not look at David. Her eyes went to the ground, then to the side, then down again, anywhere but at his face. David stood tall in front of her. His uniform was perfect. His medals shined. He was everything she tried to destroy. He was everything she feared. And now he was on her porch demanding answers. "Did you make the report to immigration enforcement?" David asked. His voice was calm, but it was ice cold. Mrs. Peterson's mouth opened. No words came out at first. She looked past David at all the neighbors standing in her yard. She looked at Mr. Rodriguez holding up his phone. She looked at the police officers. She looked at Mrs. Johnson's angry face. I thought," she stammered. "Did you make the report?" David asked again. Mrs. Peterson's hands twisted together. "I thought I saw something." "What did you see?" People, maybe, jumping the fence." "When?" "At night, I think. I am not sure." "You are not sure," David repeated. His voice got quieter. Quieter was more dangerous. "You called the police. You reported my family. You said we were illegal immigrants, but you are not sure what you saw." "I was being careful," Mrs. Peterson said. Her voice was weak. "The neighborhood is changing. I was just being careful." "Careful," David said. "You were being careful when you lied about my family, when you tried to have my wife arrested, when you traumatized my children." Mrs. Peterson finally looked up. She tried to look at David's face but only made it to his chest. She saw the Purple Heart medal. Her eyes stopped there. "What night did you see people jumping the fence?" David asked. "I do not remember exactly. What did these people look like?" "It was dark. I could not see." "What language did you hear them speaking?" Mrs. Peterson did not answer. She could not. Because she heard nothing. She saw nothing. She lied about everything. "You cannot answer because you made it up," David said. "You lied. You wanted my family gone from this street. Why?" Mrs. Peterson looked down again. She said nothing. "Why?" David asked again. Still nothing. David did not move. He just stood there looking at her. The silence was heavy. It pressed down on everyone. Mrs. Peterson's face turned red, then white, then red again. Officer Bradley stepped forward. He cleared his throat. "Ma'am, filing a false police report is a criminal offense. You can be charged. You can face fines. You can go to jail." Mrs. Peterson's eyes went wide. Her hands shook harder. "I made a mistake," she said quickly. "I am sorry. I did not mean any harm." "You did not mean harm?" Mrs. Johnson called out from the yard. "You tried to have this family arrested. You tried to have those children taken away. That is harm." Mr. Rodriguez spoke up. "I heard you say racist things before, Mrs. Peterson. You said the neighborhood was going downhill when black families moved in. You said property values would drop. I heard you. Mrs. Parker nodded. You told me those boys were too loud, but they are good boys. They are polite. You just did not want them here. More neighbors spoke up. Each one had a story. Each one heard something, but nobody said anything before today. They stayed quiet. They minded their own business. Until now. Mrs. Peterson looked at all of them. She had no defense. David looked at Mrs. Peterson standing in her doorway. She was shaking. Her face was pale. She looked older than her 60 years. Do you know what this medal means? David asked. He pointed to the Purple Heart on his chest. Mrs. Peterson nodded slightly but said nothing. It means I was wounded in combat. A bomb hit our convoy in Afghanistan. I was hurt, but I pulled 2 other soldiers out of the burning vehicle. I saved their lives. I almost died doing it. His voice stayed calm, but every word was heavy. I bled for this country, Mrs. Peterson. I bled so you could live in freedom, so you could live in safety, so you could live in peace. Mrs. Peterson's hands covered her mouth. Tears started running down her face. And you used that freedom to try to destroy my family. David continued. You lied about us. You called the police. You tried to have my wife arrested. You tried to have my children taken away. You terrorized them in their own home. I was wrong, Mrs. Peterson whispered. I know I was wrong. Why did you do it? David asked. Mrs. Peterson could not answer. She looked at the ground. Look at me, David said. She tried. Her eyes came up slowly. They reached his chest, the medals, but she could not look at his face. Why? David asked again. I do not know, Mrs. Peterson said. Her voice broke. I was angry. The neighborhood is changing. Everything is different. I was scared. Scared of what? David asked. Scared of my 9-year-old son? Scared of my wife who volunteers at the school? Scared of me serving my country? Mrs. Peterson said nothing. She knew how it sounded. She knew what she did. Mr. Thompson spoke from the yard. He was a black man in his 40s. He lived 4 houses down. You were scared of our skin color, Mr. Thompson said. That is the truth. You were scared because we are black. You wanted us gone. All of us. Mrs. Peterson shook her head weakly. That is not true. It is true, Mrs. Johnson said. You told me 3 months ago that the street was not the same anymore. You said it used to be a good neighborhood. What did you mean by that? Mrs. Peterson had no answer. You meant it was white, Mrs. Johnson said. That is what you meant. Mrs. Parker stepped forward. She was a white woman in her 30s. She had 2 young daughters. You told me I should be careful letting my daughters play with the Williams boys, Mrs. Parker said. You said boys like that are trouble. What did you mean by boys like that? Mrs. Peterson's face turned bright red. I did not mean it that way. Yes, you did, Mrs. Parker said. I did not want to believe it then, but I know now. You are racist. You did not want this family here because they are black. More neighbors agreed. Some nodded. Some spoke up. They all saw it now. They all understood. Officer Bradley took out a notebook. He wrote something down. Then he looked at Mrs. Peterson. Ma'am, based on what I have heard today, you filed a false report. That is a crime. The county prosecutor will review this case. You will receive a formal notice. There will be an investigation. Mrs. Peterson started crying harder. Please, I made a mistake. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Sorry does not fix what you did, Mr. Rodriguez said. He still held his phone up, recording everything. Sorry does not take away the fear those children felt. Sorry does not erase what happened. Mrs. Peterson looked at David. Her eyes were desperate. Please, she said. I am sorry. I live here. I raised my children here. For 30 years this has been my home. I did not know what else to do. Everything is changing so fast. I am alone. My husband died. My children do not visit. I am scared all the time. I am scared of dying alone. I am scared of being forgotten. Her voice was breaking. She was crying, but nobody felt sorry for her. David's face did not change. His voice stayed calm and cold. You were scared. So you decided to make my family scared. You decided to make my children cry. You decided to traumatize them. Being scared does not give you the right to hurt other people. Being lonely does not give you the right to be cruel. Mrs. Peterson put her face in her hands. She was sobbing now. Officer Chen spoke for the first time in several minutes. "Ma'am, you need to understand the seriousness of this. You accused an innocent family. You wasted police resources. You caused emotional harm. There will be consequences." Officer Bradley put his notebook away. "You will receive documentation in the mail within 1 week. You will have to appear in court." Mrs. Peterson nodded. She could not speak anymore. She could barely stand. David looked at her one more time. "My family will not leave this street. We have every right to be here. We belong here. This is our home. No one can take that away from us." His words were firm, final. Then David turned around. He walked down the porch steps. He walked across Mrs. Peterson's yard. He crossed the street back to his own house. The neighbors watched him go. One by one, they turned away from Mrs. Peterson. They walked back to their own houses. Nobody said goodbye to her. Nobody looked back. Mr. Rodriguez stopped recording. He put his phone away. He shook his head as he walked past Mrs. Peterson's porch. "You did this to yourself," he said. "You hurt good people. Now you have to live with it." Mrs. Johnson was the last to leave. She stood in Mrs. Peterson's yard for a moment. She looked at the older woman still standing in the doorway. "I am 70 years old," Mrs. Johnson said. "I lived through segregation. I lived through the civil rights movement. I thought things were getting better. But people like you prove we still have so far to go. You should be ashamed." Then she walked away too. Mrs. Peterson stood alone on her porch. She looked at the empty street. Everyone was gone. Everyone had turned their backs on her. She stepped back inside her house. She closed the door slowly. She leaned against it. Then she slid down to the floor. She sat there with her knees pulled up to her chest. She cried. She lived on this street for 30 years. She knew every house. She knew every tree. She watched children grow up here. She celebrated holidays here. She buried her husband from the church 3 blocks away. This was her home. But now she was an outcast. She did this to herself. She knew that. She hurt an innocent family because of her own fear and hate. She made a choice, and now she had to face the consequences. Across the street, David walked through his front door. Keisha was standing in the living room with the boys. They all ran to him. Keisha threw her arms around him. She was crying. "It is over," David said. "She will be charged. The officers apologized. We are safe." But even as he said the words, he wondered if they were true. Were they really safe? Or would this happen again? Marcus looked up at his father. "Do we have to leave our house?" David knelt down. He looked at all 3 of his sons. "No," he said firmly. "We do not have to leave. This is our home. Nobody can make us leave." But Keisha's hands were still shaking. The fear was still in her body. She did not feel safe anymore. She did not know if she ever would again. Jaden buried his face in David's uniform. "I do not want to see the police again." "Me neither," Isaiah whispered. David held them close. He could feel them shaking. His sons were scared. His wife was scared. He was angry. Not the hot kind of anger that explodes, the cold kind that sits in your chest like ice. "Boys, go sit on the couch," Keisha said softly. "Daddy and I need to talk for a minute." Marcus did not want to let go of David, but he obeyed. He took his brother's hands and led them to the couch. All 3 boys sat close together. David stood up. He looked at Keisha. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hands still shook. He pulled her close and held her tight. "I am so sorry I did not answer my phone," David said quietly. "I was in the briefing. I had no idea." "I called you so many times," Keisha whispered. "I was so scared. I did not know what to do. You did everything right. You stayed calm. You tried to reach me. You protected the boys. They were going to handcuff me, David, in front of our children, in front of the whole neighborhood. David felt the anger grow colder in his chest. I know. What if you had not come home? What if you were still in that meeting? What would have happened to us? David had no answer. He thought about it the whole drive from Fort Hays. He left the briefing without permission. When he saw 17 missed calls from Keisha, he knew something was very wrong. He did not ask his commanding officer. He did not explain. He just ran to his truck and drove home as fast as he could. What if he had not checked his phone? What if he waited until after the briefing? Would his wife be at the police station right now? Would his children be taken somewhere? The thought made him sick. I am here now, David said. I will not let anything happen to you or the boys. But even as he said it, he knew it was not completely true. He could not protect them from everything. He could not be there every moment, and that scared him more than he wanted to admit. Keisha pulled back and looked at him. I want to leave. What? I want to leave this house, this street. I do not feel safe here anymore. David understood. He felt it too, but he also knew that running away would not fix anything. If we leave, she wins, David said. If we run because of hate, hate wins. I do not care about winning, Keisha said. Her voice got stronger. I care about my children. I care about them feeling safe. How can they feel safe here now? David had no answer for that either. Behind them, Marcus spoke up. I do not want to leave. David and Keisha turned. Marcus stood up from the couch. His face was serious. This is our home, Marcus said. We did not do anything wrong. Why should we leave? Baby, it is complicated, Keisha said. No, it is not, Marcus said. That lady was mean. She lied. But we did not lie. Daddy came and told the truth. Now everyone knows. I do not want to run away. Jaden stood up too. I do not want to leave my school. My friends are here. Isaiah did not understand everything, but he did not want his brothers to be sad. I want to stay too. Keisha looked at her 3 sons. They were so young. They should not have to be brave. They should not have to think about these things. They should just be kids. But they were brave anyway. David called Fort Hays. He needed to explain why he left. His commanding officer, Colonel Morrison, answered on the second ring. Sir, this is Sergeant Williams. I need to explain my absence from the briefing this morning. Williams, where the hell are you? Colonel Morrison's voice was sharp. I am at home, sir. There was an emergency with my family. David explained everything. The police, the false report, Mrs. Peterson. As he talked, Colonel Morrison went quiet. When David finished, Colonel Morrison was silent for a long moment. Jesus Christ, David, he finally said. His voice was different now, softer. Are your wife and kids okay? They are shaken up, sir, but they are safe. You did the right thing leaving. Family comes first. Do you need to take the day off? Yes, sir, if that is possible. It is more than possible. It is an order. Take care of your family. If you need more time, you tell me. If you need anything at all, you tell me. Understood? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And David, I am sorry this happened. This is not what you fight for. This is not what you should come home to. No, sir, it is not. David hung up. He felt grateful for his commanding officer's support, but he also felt angry that he needed it at all. He served his country for 12 years. He was wounded defending it, and still, his family was not safe in their own home. Keisha sat on the couch with the boys. She held them close. They were calmer now, but still upset. Are we in trouble? Jaden asked. No, baby, we are not in trouble. We did nothing wrong. Then why did the police come? How do you explain racism to a 7-year-old? How do you explain hate? Sometimes people are afraid of things they do not understand, Keisha said carefully. Mrs. Peterson was afraid because we look different from her. Because we are black? Marcus asked. Keisha hesitated. David sat down next to them. Yes, David said, because we are black. Some people think that makes us different. That makes us dangerous. But that is wrong. The color of our skin does not make us dangerous. It does not make us bad. It just makes us who we are. Is being black bad? Isaiah asked. His small voice was so innocent. No, David said firmly. Being black is not bad. Being black is beautiful. You should be proud of who you are. Never let anyone make you feel ashamed. Marcus looked at his father. But people do not like us because we are black. Some people do not, that is true. But many people do. Mr. Rodriguez likes us. Mrs. Johnson likes us. Mrs. Parker likes us. And the people who do not like us? That is their problem, not ours. Why does Mrs. Peterson hate us? Jaden asked. David took a breath. Mrs. Peterson is scared and lonely. She does not understand that we are just people, just a family. She only sees our skin color, and that scares her. So she tried to hurt us. That is mean, Isaiah said. Yes, it is, David agreed. It is very mean. The doorbell rang. Everyone jumped. Keisha's whole body tensed. David stood up. I will get it, he said. He walked to the front door. He looked through the peephole. It was Mr. Rodriguez. David opened the door. I am sorry to bother you, Mr. Rodriguez said. My wife Maria made some food for your family. We wanted you to know we support you. He held out a large container. The smell of homemade tamales filled the air. Thank you, David said. He took the container. That is very kind. What happened today was wrong, Mr. Rodriguez said. My family came to this country from Mexico 20 years ago. We know what it feels like to be judged, to be accused. I am sorry I did not speak up about Mrs. Peterson before. I heard her say things, but I stayed quiet. That was wrong. You spoke up today, David said. That matters. Mr. Rodriguez nodded. If you need anything, please let us know. We are right next door. Thank you. After Mr. Rodriguez left, Mrs. Johnson came by. She brought flowers. Then Mrs. Parker came with a card signed by several families on the street. Then Mr. Thompson came to say he was sorry. One by one, neighbors came to the door. Some brought food. Some brought flowers. Some just came to say they were sorry. David thanked each person, but he also noticed who did not come. The White family 3 houses down did not come. The couple across the street on the corner did not come. The elderly man at the end of the block did not come. David saw their curtains move when he looked outside. They were watching, but they did not want to get involved. He wondered what they were thinking. Did they agree with Mrs. Peterson but were too smart to say it? Did they wish the Williams family would just leave and make everything go back to normal? By early afternoon, the visitors stopped coming. The street got quiet again. David closed the front door and locked it. He walked back to the living room. Keisha sat on the couch with the boys. They were watching a cartoon on television, but nobody was really paying attention. They were all just sitting there, numb. I should make lunch, Keisha said, but she did not move. She just sat there staring at nothing. I will make lunch, David said. You rest. I do not need to rest. I need to take care of my children. Let me help you. Keisha finally looked at him. Her eyes were empty. I cannot stop shaking. Look at my hands. She held up her hands. They were shaking badly. She had been shaking since the police left, hours ago, but her body would not calm down. David sat next to her. He took her hands in his. They were cold. So cold. Your body went through something traumatic, David said. It takes time to calm down. How much time? How long until I feel safe in my own home again? David had no answer. He went to the kitchen and made sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly for the boys, turkey for him and Keisha. He brought the food to the living room. The boys ate quietly. Keisha did not touch hers. After lunch, David suggested the boys play in the backyard, get some fresh air, run around. But Marcus did not want to go outside. What if Mrs. Peterson is watching? Marcus asked. So what if she is? David said. This is your home. You can play in your own backyard. But Marcus shook his head. I do not want to. Jaden and Isaiah did not want to go outside either, so they stayed inside. They played with toys in the living room. But it was quiet play. No laughing, no running, no normal kid sounds. David called his sister-in-law Monica in Cleveland. He explained what happened. Monica was Keisha's younger sister. She was 28 years old and worked as a nurse. Oh my God, Monica said. Is Keisha okay? Are the boys okay? They are shaken up. We all are. I am coming down there. You do not have to do that. Yes, I do. Keisha needs me. I will be there in 2 hours. Monica arrived at 5 o'clock in the evening. She pulled into the driveway and jumped out of her car. She ran to the front door. Keisha opened it before Monica could knock. The two sisters hugged tight. Monica was shorter than Keisha with the same warm brown skin and kind eyes. She held Keisha while Keisha cried. Really cried. The kind of crying she held back all day because she had to be strong for the boys. I got you, Monica said. I am here. I got you. Monica stayed for dinner. She helped David heat up the tamales Mr. Rodriguez brought. She made the boys laugh with funny stories about when she and Keisha were kids. For a little while, the house felt almost normal. But when bedtime came, normal disappeared. Marcus did not want to sleep in his room. He wanted to sleep in his parents' room, on the floor, where he could see them. You are safe in your room, David said gently. But what if the police come back? Marcus asked. What if they come in the night? They will not come back, I promise. But Marcus did not believe him. David saw it in his eyes. His son did not trust that things would be okay. Finally, David agreed. Marcus could sleep on the floor in their room, just for tonight. Then Jaden came out of his room crying. He had a bad dream even though he was not asleep yet. He just closed his eyes and saw scary things. He did not want to sleep alone either. So Jaden joined Marcus on the floor. Then Isaiah came in. He did not say anything. He just crawled onto the bed between David and Keisha. He sucked his thumb. He stopped sucking his thumb 2 years ago. But tonight he needed it. Monica stayed in the guest room. Around midnight, David heard Isaiah crying. He woke up. Isaiah was still asleep but crying, having a nightmare. David gently woke him up. Daddy, Isaiah sobbed. The police are taking you away. No, baby, I am right here. Nobody is taking me anywhere. But Isaiah could not calm down. He cried and cried. He was so scared. At 2 in the morning, David smelled something. He got up and checked on Marcus and Jaden on the floor. Jaden was awake and crying quietly. I am sorry, Daddy, Jaden whispered. What happened, buddy? I had an accident. Jaden had wet himself in his sleep. He had not done that in over a year. But tonight, his body could not hold it. The fear and stress were too much. It is okay, David said. Accidents happen. Let me help you get cleaned up. David helped Jaden take a shower and put on clean pajamas. He cleaned up the floor. He brought fresh blankets. Jaden was so embarrassed, so ashamed. Do not be embarrassed, David said. Your body went through something scary today. Sometimes that happens. But Jaden buried his face in the pillow. He felt like a baby. David finally got back into bed at 3 in the morning. He was exhausted. Keisha was still awake. She lay on her side staring at the wall. None of them can sleep, David whispered. Neither can I, Keisha said. Try to rest. Every time I close my eyes, I see Officer Bradley reaching for his handcuffs. I see the boys crying. I hear them screaming. It keeps playing over and over in my head. David moved closer. He put his arm around her. We should leave, Keisha whispered. We should pack up and leave this place. We talked about this. I know what we talked about. But David, look at our sons. Marcus is terrified. Jaden had an accident. Isaiah is having nightmares. This is hurting them. How can we stay here? Where would we go? Anywhere. Anywhere but here. David understood. He felt it too. The desire to run, to start over somewhere new, somewhere safe. But was anywhere really safe? Would moving fix what happened? Or would they carry this fear with them wherever they went? "I do not want to make a decision tonight," David said. "We are all tired. We are all scared. Let us get through tonight. We can talk about it tomorrow." Keisha did not argue. She was too tired, too empty. "I am so tired, David," she whispered. "I am tired of being strong. I am tired of teaching my sons how to be safe in a world that sees them as dangerous. I am tired of following all the rules and still not being protected. I am tired of fighting just to exist." David held her hand in the dark. He wanted to say something comforting, something hopeful. But he had nothing. He was tired too. Tired of proving he belonged. Tired of wearing his uniform and his medals like armor. Tired of being a symbol instead of just a man, just a father, just a husband. He squeezed Keisha's hand, but he had no words, no promises, no answers. They lay there in the dark, their 3 sons sleeping nearby, all of them carrying fear that should not be theirs to carry, all of them exhausted from a fight they did not start. Outside, Maple Street was quiet. Mrs. Peterson's house was dark, the neighborhood slept, but inside the Williams home, no one really rested. Morning came too soon. Sunlight filled the bedroom. David opened his eyes. He barely slept. Maybe 2 hours total. His body felt heavy. Isaiah was still between him and Keisha. Marcus and Jaden were on the floor. Everyone was finally asleep. David did not want to wake them, but it was Wednesday morning. The boys needed to go to school. David got up quietly. He went downstairs. Monica was already in the kitchen making coffee. "Did you sleep?" Monica asked. "Not really. You?" "I heard crying all night. Those poor babies." David poured himself coffee. He looked out the window at Maple Street. Everything looked normal. People were leaving for work. Kids were waiting for school buses. The sun was shining. But nothing felt normal. "Are you going to send them to school today?" Monica asked. "I do not know. Maybe they need a day at home. Or maybe they need routine, something normal." David thought about it. Monica was probably right. The boys needed to feel like life could go on. Upstairs, Keisha woke up. She felt like she had not slept at all. Her body ached. Her head hurt. She looked at Isaiah sleeping next to her. His thumb was in his mouth. Her heart broke. She got up carefully. She went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were swollen and red. She looked 10 years older than yesterday. By 8 o'clock, the boys were awake. Keisha made breakfast. Pancakes again. But nobody was hungry. Marcus pushed his food around the plate. Jaden stared at the table. Isaiah asked if he had to go to school. "Yes, baby. You have to go to school," Keisha said. "I do not want to," Isaiah said. "I know, but you have to." Marcus looked at his mother. "What if kids ask about the police?" Keisha had not thought about that. Of course kids would ask. Mr. Rodriguez's children saw everything. Mrs. Johnson's grandchildren were there. Other neighborhood kids saw the police at their house. Everyone would be talking about it. "Just tell them the truth," David said. "Tell them there was a mistake. Tell them everything is okay now." But Marcus did not look convinced. Nothing felt okay. At 8:20, the school bus came. Keisha walked the boys to the bus stop. Other parents were there with their children. Some parents smiled at Keisha. Some looked away. Keisha noticed everything. Mrs. Parker was there with her 2 daughters. She walked over to Keisha. "How are you doing?" Mrs. Parker asked quietly. "We are managing," Keisha said. "If you need anything, please let me know." "Thank you." The bus arrived. The boys got on slowly. Marcus found a seat by the window. He looked out at Keisha. His face was so sad, so scared. Keisha waved. She tried to smile, but inside she felt like crying. The bus drove away. Keisha stood there watching until she could not see it anymore. 3 days passed. 3 long, hard days. David went back to work at Fort Hays. He had to. But he called Keisha every hour. He needed to know she was okay, that the boys were okay, that no one came to the door. Keisha tried to work from home. She handled insurance claims for a small clinic, but she could not focus. Every time she heard a car door, she jumped. Every time someone walked by the house, she looked out the window. She could not shake the fear. The boys were different. Marcus did not laugh anymore. He did not play with his toys. He just sat quietly. At school, his teacher said he was not paying attention. He stared out the window. He did not raise his hand. He did not talk to other kids. On Friday afternoon, Keisha got a phone call. It was Marcus's school. The principal needed to see her. Right away. Keisha's stomach dropped. What happened? Is Marcus okay? He is fine, but there was an incident. Can you come to the school? Keisha drove to Lincoln Elementary School. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. What happened? What did Marcus do? She parked and walked to the office. The secretary told her to sit down. The principal would be right out. 5 minutes later, the principal came out. Mrs. Davis was a black woman in her 50s. She wore a blue dress and glasses. She had kind eyes. Mrs. Williams, please come to my office. Keisha followed her down the hall. Inside the office, Marcus sat in a chair. His head was down. He would not look at his mother. Keisha sat in the chair next to him. Marcus, what happened? Marcus said nothing. Mrs. Davis sat behind her desk. Marcus got into a fight today at lunch. A fight? Marcus does not fight. He is not violent. I know, this is very unlike him. That is why I wanted to talk to you. What happened? Mrs. Davis looked at Marcus. Do you want to tell your mother? Or should I? Marcus stayed silent. Mrs. Davis sighed. A boy named Tyler made some comments about the police being at your house earlier this week. He said some unkind things. Marcus pushed him. Keisha looked at her son. Marcus, is that true? Marcus finally looked up. His eyes were full of tears. He said Daddy was a criminal. He said the police came to arrest Daddy. He said we are bad people. Keisha's heart broke. She reached for Marcus's hand. What did you do? I told him to stop. I told him it was not true, but he kept saying it. He was laughing, so I pushed him. He fell down. Mrs. Davis leaned forward. I understand Marcus was provoked. Tyler will be disciplined for his comments. But Marcus cannot push other students. Violence is not acceptable. I understand, Keisha said. It will not happen again. Mrs. Davis looked at Marcus. Marcus, I know this week has been hard for you. Mr. Rodriguez told me what happened at your house. That must have been very scary. Marcus nodded. Tears ran down his face. But you cannot hurt other students, even when they say mean things. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am, Marcus whispered. I am going to give you a warning. If it happens again, there will be a suspension, okay? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Davis handed Keisha some papers. I am also recommending that Marcus talk to our school counselor. Mrs. Chen is very good with children who have experienced trauma. The word hit Keisha hard. Trauma. Her 9-year-old son experienced trauma in his own home because of a lie. Okay, Keisha said. Whatever helps. In the car, Marcus cried. Really cried. Not quiet tears. Big sobs that shook his whole body. I am sorry, Mama. I am so sorry. I did not mean to push him. I just wanted him to stop. I wanted him to stop saying mean things about Daddy. Keisha pulled the car over. She unbuckled her seatbelt and reached back to hold Marcus. You have nothing to be sorry for, baby. That boy was wrong. He should not have said those things. But I pushed him. I am in trouble. You made a mistake. We all make mistakes, especially when we are hurting. I am tired, Mama. I am tired of people being mean. I am tired of being scared. Keisha held her son while he cried. She cried too. She could not help it. Her baby was tired. tired at 9 years old. He should be playing. He should be happy. He should be a kid. But the world would not let him be just a kid. That evening, Mr. Rodriguez knocked on the door. David answered it. "I hope this is not a bad time," Mr. Rodriguez said. "I wanted to talk to you about something." "Come in." Mr. Rodriguez came into the living room. Keisha was there with the boys. Monica was still visiting. She was staying the whole week. "I have been thinking about what happened," Mr. Rodriguez said. "I think we need to do something. As a neighborhood. We need to make sure this never happens again." "What do you mean?" David asked. "I want to organize a neighborhood meeting. I want everyone to come together. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about how to support each other, how to watch out for each other." "I do not know if we want to relive this in front of everyone," Keisha said. "I understand, but I think it is important. People need to hear your story. They need to understand what happened, and we need to create a community where all families feel safe." David looked at Keisha. She looked exhausted. She looked like she wanted to say no. But then she looked at Marcus, sitting quietly on the couch. She thought about him pushing that boy. She thought about him being tired at 9 years old. "When?" Keisha asked. "Tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, at my house. I will invite everyone on the street." Keisha did not want to go. She did not want to face the neighbors. She did not want to talk about what happened. But she also knew Mr. Rodriguez was right. They could not just pretend everything was fine. They had to face this. "Okay," she said quietly. "We will be there." Saturday morning arrived. Keisha did not want to go to the meeting. She woke up feeling sick to her stomach. The thought of facing all those neighbors made her want to hide. "We do not have to go," David said at breakfast. "Yes, we do," Keisha said. "Mr. Rodriguez is right. We cannot just pretend everything is fine." Monica agreed to stay with the boys. Marcus, Jaden, and Isaiah did not want their parents to leave. But Monica promised to make cookies with them. She promised to play games. She would keep them busy. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, David and Keisha walked to Mr. Rodriguez's house. It was just next door, but the walk felt long. Keisha's legs felt heavy. Her heart was beating fast. David took her hand. "We can leave any time you want." "I know." Mr. Rodriguez opened the door. "Thank you for coming. Really. Thank you." Inside, about 15 people were already there. Some sat in the living room, some stood in the kitchen, some were out in the backyard. Keisha recognized most of them. Mrs. Johnson was there. She sat in a chair by the window. Mrs. Parker was there with her husband. Mr. Thompson was there. Some faces Keisha knew from walking the neighborhood. Some she had never spoken to before. Everyone got quiet when David and Keisha walked in. All eyes turned to them. Keisha wanted to run, but David squeezed her hand. Mr. Rodriguez led them to the living room. "Please, sit down." They sat on the couch. People started talking again, but Keisha could feel them watching. She could feel them wondering what to say. Mr. Rodriguez stood in the middle of the room. He raised his voice. "Thank you all for coming. I know this is hard, but I think it is important we talk about what happened this week." The room got quiet again. The Williams family was targeted by a false police report. Their children were traumatized. Keisha was nearly arrested in front of her sons, all because of a lie. Mrs. Johnson nodded. "It was wrong. Very wrong." "I agree," Mr. Rodriguez continued, "and I think we need to make sure it never happens again. Not to the Williams family, not to any family on this street." "What are you suggesting?" a white man asked. His name was Mr. Foster. He lived 4 houses down. Keisha had seen him but never spoken to him. "I think we should start a neighborhood watch," Mr. Rodriguez said. "Not to keep people out, but to keep people safe. We watch out for each other. We protect each other." "That sounds good," Mr. Thompson said. He was a black man in his 40s. "We need to look out for each other." Mrs. Johnson stood up. She was 70 years old, but her voice was strong. "We also need to have hard conversations about race. White neighbors need to speak up when they hear racist comments." You cannot stay silent." Some people nodded. Some people looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Parker spoke up. "You are right. I stayed quiet too many times. I heard Mrs. Peterson say things. I should have said something. I am ashamed I did not." "We all could have done better," Mr. Rodriguez said. Mr. Foster raised his hand. "I understand everyone is upset, but do you think maybe we are being too hard on Mrs. Peterson? She is just an old woman. She is scared. Maybe she made a mistake, but she did not mean any real harm." The room got very tense. Several people started talking at once. David held up his hand. Everyone got quiet. He looked directly at Mr. Foster. "Can I ask you something?" David said. His voice was calm but firm. "Sure," Mr. Foster said. "Have you ever had police come to your door because a neighbor lied about you?" "No." "Have you ever been accused of being an illegal immigrant in your own home?" "No." "Have you ever had to teach your children how to act around police so they do not get hurt or killed?" Mr. Foster said nothing. His face turned red. "Then you do not understand," David said. Mrs. Peterson did not just make a mistake. She filed a false report. She weaponized the police against my family. She tried to have my wife arrested. She traumatized my children. That is not a mistake. That is a choice. The room was silent. Mr. Foster looked down at his hands. Mrs. Davis spoke up. She was the principal from Marcus's school. She came to support the family. "This is bigger than one incident. This is about creating a community where all families feel safe, where all children feel safe." "What do you suggest?" Mr. Rodriguez asked. "Regular meetings, like this one. We need to keep talking, keep learning, keep growing together." "That is a good idea," Mrs. Parker said. Mrs. Davis continued. "We could also do a community cookbook. Each family shares recipes and stories. We learn about each other's cultures. We learn about each other's lives." "I love that idea," Mrs. Johnson said. "And maybe we could have block parties," Mrs. Davis suggested. "Get-togethers where neighbors actually spend time together, not just waving from driveways." People started nodding. The energy in the room shifted. It felt more positive, more hopeful. "We could do something for the 4th of July, Mr. Thompson said. "That is only 2 months away. A big block party with food and music and games for the kids." "Yes," Mr. Rodriguez said. "I will organize it." They talked for another 30 minutes. They made plans. They shared ideas. A phone tree so neighbors could reach each other quickly. A group message for emergencies. Monthly meetings to check in. Then someone asked the question that had been hanging in the air. "Where is Mrs. Peterson?" An older white woman asked. Her name was Mrs. Chen. She lived at the end of the block. "I did not invite her," Mr. Rodriguez said. "I did not think she would come." "Should we have invited her?" Mrs. Chen asked. "No," Mrs. Johnson said firmly. "She does not get to be part of this conversation, not after what she did." But Keisha spoke up. It was the first time she spoke since arriving. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard. She should face what she did. Everyone turned to look at her. David looked surprised. Keisha had been so quiet all week, so withdrawn. But now she was speaking. "She should hear how she hurt us," Keisha continued. Her voice got stronger. "She should hear what she did to my sons. She should know that Marcus is seeing a counselor now. She should know that Jaden is scared to sleep alone. She should know that Isaiah has nightmares. She should face all of it." The room was completely silent. Keisha's hands were shaking, but she kept talking. "I have been quiet my whole life. I learned to be quiet, to not make trouble, to not take up too much space. But I am done being quiet. What happened to my family was wrong, and she needs to know it." David reached for her hand. He held it tight. He was proud of her. She was finding her voice. Mrs. Johnson stood up and walked over to Keisha. She put her hand on Keisha's shoulder. "You are right. She should face what she did." Mr. Rodriguez wrote something in a notebook. "Okay, next meeting I will invite Mrs. Peterson. She needs to hear this. She needs to understand the harm she caused." The meeting continued for another 15 minutes. They set a date for the next meeting. They exchanged phone numbers. They made commitments to speak up and look out for each other. When the meeting ended, people came up to David and Keisha. They thanked them for coming. They said they were sorry. They promised to do better. David and Keisha walked back to their house. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and pink. Maple Street looked peaceful. "You were brave in there," David said. "I did not feel brave. I felt angry. Sometimes anger is brave." Inside, Monica had the boys in the kitchen. They made chocolate chip cookies. The house smelled good. The boys were laughing. For a moment, everything felt almost normal. Marcus ran to his parents. "Did you talk about Mrs. Peterson?" "Yes," Keisha said. "What happened?" "We made plans to make the neighborhood better, safer." "For everyone?" "For everyone." That night, Keisha tucked Marcus into his own bed. He had been sleeping on their floor all week, but tonight he wanted to try his own room again. "Mama, are we going to be okay?" Marcus asked. Keisha sat on the edge of his bed. She looked at her son. His face was so young, so innocent. He should not have to worry about these things. "Yes, baby. We are going to be okay." "Promise?" Keisha wanted to promise, but she knew better now. She knew she could not control everything. She could not protect him from everything. "I promise I will do everything I can to keep you safe," she said. "And Daddy will too. And now our neighbors will too." Marcus nodded. "I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. So much." She kissed his forehead and turned off the light. She left his door open a crack so he could see the hallway light. Downstairs, David sat on the couch. Monica was in the kitchen cleaning up. Keisha sat next to David. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you still want to leave?" David asked quietly. Keisha thought about it. Part of her still wanted to run, to start over, to find a place where this never happened. But another part of her wanted to stay, wanted to fight, wanted to prove that they belonged here. "I do not know," she said honestly. "Ask me tomorrow." Tomorrow came, then the next day, then the next. Life slowly found a rhythm again. Not normal, but something close to it. 1 week after the neighborhood meeting, Officer Bradley returned to Maple Street. It was a Tuesday morning, 10:30. He drove a marked police car. He parked in front of Mrs. Peterson's house. Across the street, Keisha saw him from her living room window. Her heart started racing immediately. Why was he back? What was happening now? She watched Officer Bradley get out of his car. He walked to Mrs. Peterson's door. He knocked. Mrs. Peterson opened it slowly. Officer Bradley handed her a large envelope. He spoke to her for a few minutes. Then he left. Keisha called David at work. Officer Bradley was just here. He went to Mrs. Peterson's house. What did he want? I do not know. He gave her an envelope and left. Probably the court documents. Should we be worried? No. This is not about us anymore. This is about her facing consequences. Inside her house, Mrs. Peterson stood in her doorway holding the envelope. Her hands shook. She already knew what it was. Officer Bradley told her it would come. But seeing it, holding it, that made it real. She walked to her kitchen table and sat down. She opened the envelope slowly. Inside were legal documents, official papers with the county seal. She read the words even though they made her feel sick. The state of Ohio versus Eleanor Peterson. Criminal charge, filing a false police report. There was a court date, May 15th, 3 weeks away. There were warnings about failure to appear. There were explanations of possible penalties, up to 6 months in jail, up to $5,000 in fines. Mrs. Peterson put her head in her hands. What had she done? What had she done? She picked up her phone. She found the number for a lawyer, a man named Robert Chen. He worked downtown. She called him. "Chen Law Office," a woman answered. "I need to speak to Mr. Chen. I have been charged with a crime." "What kind of charge?" "Filing a false police report. Hold, please." Mrs. Peterson waited. Her heart pounded. After 2 minutes, a man's voice came on the line. "This is Robert Chen. How can I help you?" Mrs. Peterson explained everything. The call she made, the Williams family, the police coming, the confrontation on her porch, the court documents she just received. Mr. Chen listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Do you have the police report?" he asked. "Yes." "Did you make the call?" "Yes." "Was the information you gave them true?" Mrs. Peterson hesitated. Then she whispered, "No." "Then my advice is to plead guilty." "What?" "Mrs. Peterson, the evidence is clear. They have the recording of your call. They have statements from the family and the officers. They have video from a neighbor's phone. You have no defense." "But I could go to jail." "Possibly. But if you plead guilty and show genuine remorse, the judge might be lenient. You might get probation instead, community service, counseling. But if you fight this and lose, the penalties will be worse." "How much will you cost?" "My retainer is $3,000. Mrs. Peterson felt her stomach drop. $3,000. She did not have that much. She lived on her late husband's pension and Social Security. She had some savings, but not much. "I need to think about it," she said. "Do not wait too long. Your court date is in 3 weeks." Mrs. Peterson hung up. She sat at her kitchen table staring at the court documents. She had no choice. She would have to represent herself. She could not afford a lawyer. That afternoon, Mr. Rodriguez saw David outside. He walked over quickly. "Did you hear?" Mr. Rodriguez asked. "Hear what?" "Mrs. Peterson is being charged. Officer Bradley delivered the court documents this morning. I saw him." David nodded. "Good. Keisha told me at the meeting that Mrs. Peterson should face consequences. I am glad she will. So am I." Inside, David told Keisha. She felt a dark satisfaction rise in her chest. Good. Mrs. Peterson would face a judge. She would have to answer for what she did. But David felt more complicated about it. He was angry at Mrs. Peterson. He wanted her to face justice. But he also knew the legal system was broken. The same system that charged her was the system that sent officers to his door without verification. That evening, there was a soft knock on the Williams family door. David answered it. Mrs. Peterson stood on the porch. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Her hair was messy. She wore an old sweater and wrinkled pants. She held a white envelope in her shaking hands. David's jaw tightened. He did not invite her in. He just stood in the doorway. "I came to apologize," Mrs. Peterson said. Her voice cracked. "You already apologized. I know, but I wrote letters to Keisha, to each of your sons. I want them to know how sorry I am." She held out the envelope. David took it but said nothing. "I also wrote down the truth. Everything I did, everything I lied about. I am giving a copy to the prosecutor. I will admit everything in court." David looked at the envelope in his hand, then back at Mrs. Peterson. "Can I speak to Keisha?" Mrs. Peterson asked. "Please, I need to tell her how sorry I am." "No, please, just for a minute. Keisha does not want to see you. She does not want to hear from you." Mrs. Peterson's face crumpled. She started crying. "I deserve that. I know I do. But please tell her I am sorry. Tell her I was wrong. Tell her I am a hateful old woman who destroyed a beautiful family because of fear." David said nothing. He just stood there holding the envelope. Mrs. Peterson wiped her eyes. She looked up at David, at his face, at his medals, at everything she tried to destroy. "Can you ever forgive me?" she asked. David thought about it, really thought about it. Could he forgive her? Did he want to? "I do not know," he said honestly. "Forgiveness is not free. You have to earn it." Mrs. Peterson nodded. She understood. "I will try. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better. Words are easy. Actions are what matter." "I know." Mrs. Peterson turned to leave. She walked down the porch steps slowly. She looked old, broken. She walked back across the street to her dark house. David closed the door. Keisha came out of the kitchen. She had been listening. What did she want? David handed her the envelope. She wrote apology letters. To you, to the boys. Keisha took the envelope. She opened it. Inside were 4 handwritten letters. One for her, one for Marcus, one for Jaden, one for Isaiah. She read the one addressed to her. It was 2 pages long. Mrs. Peterson admitted everything. She explained her fear and loneliness. She explained how she let hate control her. She said she was sorry over and over. She said she knew sorry was not enough. When Keisha finished reading, she ripped the letter in half, then in half again. She ripped it into small pieces. Words on paper mean nothing, Keisha said. Her voice was hard. She can write sorry 1,000 times. It does not change what she did. David watched her. He understood her anger. He felt it too. What about the boys' letters? He asked. Burn them. I do not want my sons reading her excuses. David took the other 3 letters. He walked to the kitchen. He turned on the stove. He held each letter over the flame until it caught fire. Then he dropped them in the sink. He watched them burn until there was nothing left but ash. 2 weeks passed. May 15th arrived. Court day. David and Keisha drove downtown to the courthouse. The prosecutor called them the day before. He asked if they would attend. He said Mrs. Peterson was pleading guilty. He said their presence would help show the impact of her crime. They sat in the back row of the courtroom. It was a small room with wooden benches. The judge's bench was at the front. The American flag and the Ohio flag stood on either side. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Mrs. Peterson entered with a public defender. She could not afford Mr. Chen. The court assigned her a lawyer, a young woman named Sarah Martinez. Mrs. Peterson looked even worse than 2 weeks ago. She wore a navy blue dress. Her hair was combed, but her face was pale and thin. She had lost weight. She looked like she had not slept in weeks. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Judge Michael Warren was a black man in his 60s. He wore black robes and glasses. "Please be seated," Judge Warren said. The bailiff read the case. The State of Ohio versus Eleanor Peterson, case number 234567. The charge is filing a false police report. Judge Warren looked at Mrs. Peterson. "How do you plead?" Mrs. Peterson stood up. Her legs were shaking. "Guilty, Your Honor." Judge Warren looked at Mrs. Peterson over his glasses. "You understand that by pleading guilty, you are admitting to the crime?" "Yes, Your Honor," Mrs. Peterson said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Speak up, please." "Yes, Your Honor," she said louder. Judge Warren looked at the papers in front of him. "Miss Martinez, does your client wish to make a statement?" Sarah Martinez, the public defender, stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Peterson has prepared a statement." Mrs. Peterson stood up slowly. She held a piece of paper, but her hands shook so badly she could not read it. She put the paper down. She looked at the judge. "Your Honor, I am guilty. I made a false report to immigration enforcement. I lied. I said I saw people jumping a fence at the Williams family home. I said I heard foreign languages. None of it was true." Her voice broke, but she kept going. "I did it because I am a racist. I did not want a black family living across the street from me. I wanted them gone, so I weaponized the police against them. I tried to have an innocent woman arrested in front of her children. I traumatized 3 young boys. I caused pain and fear to a family that did nothing wrong." Tears ran down her face. "I have no excuse. Being old is not an excuse. Being lonely is not an excuse. Being scared is not an excuse. I made a choice, a terrible, evil choice, and I deserve to be punished." She sat down. She could not say any more. Judge Warren looked at the prosecutor. "Does the state wish to speak?" The prosecutor stood up. His name was Daniel Ross. He was a white man in his 40s with gray hair. "Yes, Your Honor. This case represents more than one woman's lie. It represents the harm caused by racism in our community. Mrs. Peterson's actions could have resulted in the illegal detention of American citizens. A decorated military veteran and his family were terrorized in their own home. He turned and gestured toward David and Keisha in the back row. Sergeant David Williams has served this country for 12 years. He was wounded in combat defending our freedom. His wife Keisha is a devoted mother. Their 3 sons are good students, good kids. They did everything right. And still, they were targeted because of the color of their skin. Judge Warren looked at David and Keisha. "Sergeant Williams, Mrs. Williams, would you like to speak?" David had not expected this. He looked at Keisha. She shook her head. She did not want to speak. She did not want to look at Mrs. Peterson. But David stood up. He walked to the front of the courtroom. He stood in his dress uniform. His medals shined in the fluorescent light. "Your Honor, what Mrs. Peterson did hurt my family deeply. My sons still have nightmares. My wife still jumps every time someone knocks on the door. My oldest son is seeing a counselor for anxiety. My middle son was too scared to sleep alone for weeks. My youngest son started sucking his thumb again." He paused. His voice stayed calm but firm. "But my family is strong. We will heal. What I worry about are the families who do not have what we have. Families without a soldier in uniform. Families without the protection that my rank gave us that day. What happens to them when someone lies? When police come without verification? When hate is weaponized?" He looked at Mrs. Peterson. She could not look back at him. Mrs. Peterson should face consequences. But more than that, the system that allowed this to happen needs to change. Officers should verify reports before going to people's homes. Families should not be detained first and asked questions later. Judge Warren nodded slowly. "Thank you, Sergeant Williams. You may sit down." David walked back to Keisha. She reached for his hand. Judge Warren looked at Mrs. Peterson. "Stand up, please." Mrs. Peterson stood. She was shaking. "Mrs. Peterson, what you did was not just illegal. It was cruel. You took your fear and your hate and you tried to destroy an innocent family. You traumatized children. You abused the trust we place in citizens to report real crimes." Mrs. Peterson nodded. Tears streamed down her face. "However, I also see that you have taken responsibility. You pleaded guilty. You admitted your racism. That takes courage. Not enough courage. But it is a start." He looked at his papers. "I am sentencing you to 90 days in jail, suspended. That means you will not go to jail if you complete all conditions of your probation." Mrs. Peterson let out a breath she had been holding. "You will serve 2 years of probation. During that time, you will complete 200 hours of community service. You will work with organizations that serve minority communities. You will attend weekly counseling for racial bias. You will pay a fine of $2,000, and you will write a public apology to be printed in the Columbus Dispatch newspaper." Mrs. Peterson nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, I will do all of it." "If you violate any condition of your probation, you will serve the full 90 days in jail. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Court is adjourned." The gavel hit the bench. It was over. Outside the courtroom, a reporter stopped David and Keisha. She held a microphone. A cameraman stood behind her. "Sergeant Williams, do you feel justice was served today?" David thought about the question. Justice. What did that even mean? "Justice is complicated," he said. "Mrs. Peterson will face consequences. That is good. But the system that sent officers to my door without checking facts? That system is still broken. Real justice would mean this never happens to any family, not just mine." The reporter turned to Keisha. "Mrs. Williams, how do you feel?" Keisha looked at the camera. For a moment she thought about staying quiet, about saying the expected thing, but she was done being quiet. "I am glad Mrs. Peterson was punished, but punishment does not erase what happened. My sons are still scared. I am still scared. We lost something that day. We lost the feeling of being safe in our own home. No court sentence can give that back to us." The reporter thanked them. David and Keisha walked to their car. "Do you think we said the right thing?" Keisha asked. I think we said the truth." Months passed. Summer came to Maple Street. The days got longer and hotter. The trees filled with green leaves. Kids played outside until dark. Mrs. Peterson started her community service. She worked at East Side Community Center 3 days a week. She sorted food donations. She helped pack boxes for families in need. She served hot meals to homeless people. At first, she was terrified. The center was in a mostly black neighborhood. She was the only white person there most days. But the director, a woman named Patricia Johnson, was patient with her. "This is where the work begins," Patricia said. "Not just serving food, but seeing people as people, not as threats." Mrs. Peterson also attended counseling every Tuesday. Her counselor was Dr. Marcus Reed, a black man in his 50s. He made her read books about racism. He made her examine her childhood. He made her look at her beliefs and where they came from. It was painful work, but Mrs. Peterson kept going. She had no choice. But also, somewhere deep inside, she wanted to change. She wanted to be better. On Maple Street, the Williams family slowly healed. Marcus continued seeing the school counselor. His anxiety got better. Not gone, but better. He learned coping strategies. He learned to talk about his feelings instead of holding them inside. He made a new friend at school, a boy named Carlos who loved basketball. They played together at recess. They sat together at lunch. Having a friend helped Marcus feel normal again. Jaden joined a soccer team. Running up and down the field released something in him. The fear, the stress. He was getting faster, stronger. He smiled more. Isaiah's nightmares became less frequent. He stopped sucking his thumb. He stopped wetting the bed. He was 5 years old and learning to be brave. Keisha started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Angela Chen. She specialized in trauma. She helped Keisha understand that what she experienced was real, that her fear was valid, that healing takes time. Slowly, Keisha started to feel more like herself. She still jumped when people knocked on the door, but not as badly. She still looked out the window more than before, but she was not paralyzed by fear anymore. And she found her voice. When someone at the grocery store made a comment about her boys being too loud, Keisha spoke up. When another mother at school said something about the neighborhood changing, Keisha challenged her. She was done being quiet. David got promoted at Fort Hays. He became a first sergeant, more responsibility, better pay. His commanding officer said David showed exceptional character during a difficult situation. David was proud, but he also felt strange about it. He got promoted partly because of what happened. That felt wrong, but he accepted it, and he decided to use his new position to help other military families, to advocate for them, to protect them. In late October, the Williams family decorated for Halloween. They put fake spider webs on the bushes. They carved pumpkins with scary faces. They hung orange lights on the porch. Marcus wanted to be a superhero. Keisha bought him a red cape and a mask. Jaden wanted to be a dinosaur. David found a green costume with a tail. Isaiah wanted to be a firefighter. He wore a plastic helmet and carried a toy hose. On Halloween night, October 31st, children filled Maple Street. Kids in costumes ran from house to house. Parents walked behind them with flashlights. The air was cool and smelled like autumn leaves. The Williams boys went trick-or-treating with Mr. Rodriguez's kids and Mrs. Johnson's grandchildren. They carried pillowcases that got heavier and heavier with candy. They laughed. They ran. They were just kids being kids. David and Keisha walked behind them holding hands. They watched their sons being happy, being free. It felt good. Across the street, Mrs. Peterson sat on her porch. She put out a big bowl of candy. Some kids came to her house. Some parents steered their kids away. She understood. She hurt people. People do not forget that easily. A little girl dressed as a princess came up the steps. Her mother waited on the sidewalk. Mrs. Peterson smiled and gave the girl 2 pieces of candy. "Thank you," the little girl said. "You are very welcome. You look beautiful." The little girl ran back to her mother. Mrs. Peterson watched them go. Such a simple moment. But it mattered. Later, Isaiah tripped on a crack in the sidewalk. He fell hard. His candy spilled everywhere. He started crying. Mrs. Peterson stood up instinctively. She started to walk toward him, to help. But Marcus and Jaden were already there. They helped Isaiah up. They checked to make sure he was not hurt. They picked up his candy piece by piece. They made sure he got every one. Mrs. Peterson stopped walking. She watched the three brothers taking care of each other. She saw the family she tried to destroy. She saw their love, their strength. She sat back down on her porch. She did not deserve to help. She did not deserve to be part of their lives. David saw Mrs. Peterson sitting there. For a moment their eyes met. David did not smile, but he nodded, just slightly. Acknowledgement. They both lived on this street. They had to exist together. Mrs. Peterson nodded back. It was the most they communicated since court. It was not forgiveness. It was not friendship. But it was something. That night, after the boys counted their candy and went to bed, David and Keisha sat on their front porch. The street was quiet. The decorations glowed in the dark. The air was cool. "This almost feels normal," Keisha said. "Almost is good enough for now," David said. Keisha looked at him. "Do you think we made the right choice? Staying here? I do not know if it was right, but it was our choice. We did not let fear decide for us." Keisha squeezed his hand. "The boys are getting better." Marcus smiled tonight. Really smiled. "I saw that. It was good to see. They are resilient, stronger than I thought. They get that from you." Keisha leaned her head on David's shoulder. They sat in silence for a while, just being together. "We will be okay," David said quietly. "It will take time, but we will be okay." Keisha wanted to believe that. She was starting to. Across the street, Mrs. Peterson turned off her porch light. She went inside. She sat at her kitchen table with her journal, the one her counselor gave her. She wrote about what she saw tonight, the Williams boys helping each other, the nod she exchanged with David, the little girl who said thank you. She wrote, "Maybe, in time, I can become a better person. I do not know if I will ever be forgiven, but I have to try. Every day, I have to try." On Maple Street, lights went out one by one. Families went to bed. The night got quiet. Inside their home, the Williams family was together. Safe for tonight. They knew tomorrow would bring new challenges. They knew the fight for dignity and respect never really ended. But tonight, they had each other. Marcus slept in his own room without nightmares. Jaden slept peacefully. Isaiah did not cry out for his daddy. Keisha and David lay in their bed holding hands in the dark. They belonged here. They always belonged here, and no one could take that away. The story ended not with perfect healing, but with hope. Hope that people can change, hope that communities can grow, hope that love is stronger than hate. The Williams family would keep living, keep fighting, keep proving they belong. Because they do belong. They always did, and that is enough. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.